This edition of MacVoices is sponsored by Linode, high-performance cloud hosting for everyone. Visit linode.com/MacVoices and take $20 off your first server package. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is the second of a two-part conversation with Bryan Chaffin of the Mac Observer. In the first part, Bryan started an analysis of some of Apple's products, talked about his new cowboy hat, and a whole lot more. This time around, we continue that conversation and dig in a little deeper with more of Apple's products, Apple TV, and again, lots more. So let's get back to the conversation with Bryan. All right, let's talk about iPad. How do you feel about the current lineup of iPads?
So iPad for Dummies 11th edition, I did the update for that. It's going to come out, I think they pushed it back till June. I don't know if they're going to end up pushing it back again because of COVID-19. But anyway, iPad, the iPad Pro, they were kind of slow to update the iPad Pro, but the new update with the LiDAR on the back is interesting, assuming the developers end up doing something with it. And so far, we haven't really seen much of that. But I like iPad. I spend a lot of time on my iPad.
Now, which size?
I've got the 11-inch iPad Pro. I've got the previous generation 11-inch iPad Pro, and then I've got the current regular iPad.
No iPad Mini.
No iPad Mini. No.
Okay. What do you do with it, Bryan? I mean, is it a consumption device for you? Is it a productivity device, or is it a mix of the two?
Almost entirely consumption. So read all my books, read a lot of news, a couple games that I play. It's all for me. It's very much a consumption device.
And that's fair. That's fair. I don't know. Are you a laptop? I know we were just talking about the iMac, so I know you're an iMac guy. But are you a laptop guy at all?
When I go out to coffee shops to work, yeah, I am.
Okay. What is your current? Yeah.
I've got the 2018 MacBook Air, and I'm not satisfied with it. It is fine for writing articles and stuff. It's just fine. But it is, my fans get cranking when I've got Photoshop going and I've got, two browsers open and 82 tabs and, just like all of the things going on. My MacBook Air starts getting really cranky.
Okay, so that brings up something that I think we've had part of this discussion before, but you have to buy the right machine for the job.
Absolutely.
And if you were buying a MacBook Air to do Photoshop, anything other than very casual Photoshop, I think
web stuff Photoshop.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've kind of bought the wrong machine, and not you, but anyone. If you expect it to perform in any sense of the word, I think you've bought the wrong machine. You were trying to cheap it out, and you missed.
That's fair. At the time when I got that, the MacBook Pro, the 13-inch MacBook Pro, just was not a great machine. Today, I would buy the 13-inch MacBook Pro.
Okay, all right.
And I thought about replacing my Air with a 13-inch MacBook Pro, even though it's only a 2018 model, because there are enough things that I do with it that it, like I said, it gets cranky, and I don't like cranky devices.
Well, I agree with that. I mean, I have an Air older than that was specifically bought to take to meetings and to do light work, and it's great. And have I tried to run Final Cut on it? Yes, and the experience is not very good.
Yeah.
And it's definitely not good when I compare it to my 16-inch MacBook Pro.
Sure.
So, that's where I feel like people really need to, and listen, you and I both have the luxury of having multiple machines. And so I get it. Not everybody has that. So you really have to stop and think about what it is that you want to do with these machines, and don't be asking it to do something that it really wasn't designed for, and then complain that, gee, it's not doing it because it's just not.
Yeah, I agree with that. Sure.
It wasn't right there. Okay. I'm kind of surprised, given that you say you read books and I know how much of a reader you are, that there's not a mini in your arsenal somewhere.
I read on my side.
Excuse me?
I read on my side in bed.
You read on your side in bed. Okay.
Yeah. So do you read on your back or do you read in bed?
Yeah.
Do you read on your back or on your side?
I never really thought about it. I guess I read on my back or propped up.
So 100% of the time, people who prefer the Mac Mini read on their back in bed. Like, it's still anecdotal. It's a small data set, but every single person with whom I've had this discussion who says that the Mac Mini is perfect for them reads on their back in bed. I read on my side in bed. And so I'm not holding my iPad Pro up. It's resting on the bed. So it's not heavy. And it's the perfect size for me.
Okay. So
this is really, you look perplexed. Is that?
Well, I'm trying to visualize this. So if you read on your side, are you then looking like down at the iPad, or are you turning the iPad sideways like your head if you're on your side?
Yeah, the iPad. Yeah, I'll usually actually have the iPad resting on its corner, and I'm holding it up with one side, and and so it's even, it's straight up and down with my head, but my head is on a pillow, right?
Okay, so
right,
you just
the iPad's at an angle too.
Okay.
100% of the time, it's so funny. It's 100% of the time. People who read on their back say that the Mini is the normal sized iPad, the original sized iPad, that form factor is too big, and people who read on their side are fine with the bigger one.
I'm going to have to go and experiment because I never really thought about that. But well,
if I read on my back, I wouldn't want to hold the Pro up for sure. I don't think I'd want to hold the regular iPad. I only have the regular iPad. I bought that to do iPad for Dummies, so I could have a naked device that didn't have anything on it for screenshots and for testing and everything. But I wouldn't want to hold that over me to read.
Well, but to be fair, I don't lay on my back and hold it like that. I mean, I would prop myself on a couple pillows and read it that way. So it's probably, this is an iPhone, not an iPad, but I'd be holding it a bit more like this, or resting it on another pillow.
How he sleeps more carefully.
No. Yeah, I really am. I don't know why this intrigues me, but the position you're talking about, I can't believe it's comfortable for any length of time.
Really? Why not?
Well, just
there's some missing information here.
Well, there must be, because if you're on your side with your head cocked on a pillow, and you have another hand up here holding the iPad on a corner to match the angle of your head, I can't.
The point is that the weight I'm not holding the weight of the iPad. The bed is supporting the iPad.
Right.
If I'm laying on my right side and it's my left hand that is holding the iPad, it's merely controlling where it is. The weight is all being supported by the bed. And if I'm laying on my left side and I'm reading, then my right hand is controlling where the iPad is. The iPad Pro is hardback sized. It's a very, very comfortable.
Okay.
It's a very, very comfortable form factor for me when it comes to reading. Even the Mini is smaller even than a paperback, though. Paperback's probably like right between like a Mini and it's closer to the Mini than it is the 11-inch.
Yeah.
But I've been mostly reading hardbacks for years before I switched over to the iPad.
Yeah, we're gonna get a lot of emails about this and why are you guys wasting so much time? But I think it's always interesting to hear how people use their technology, because all these are the things that the Apple engineers have to take into account when they're deciding on what size a device is going to be and how thick or thin and what the materials are going to be to hold on to it. I would never have thought under any circumstance of balancing an iPad on its corner to read it, because I guess I just don't do it that way.
Read on your side.
Yeah, so there you go. Okay, moving on. Apple TV.
I would love to end up hearing from everybody else.
Okay, well,
How do they read? If they read in bed, what size do they prefer, and how does that correspond to whether or not they read on their back or on their side?
okay, this is your big chance, folks. On the Twitter account or on Facebook or email, let us know. Let us know, because now you've got me curious too. I thought everybody did what I did. I didn't know that.
Fair enough.
Apple TV.
Apple TV.
The device, not the service.
Okay. Did you read Charlotte Henry's piece saying that the name?
Yeah, the confusion over the
confusion over that, and the mere fact that you just had to specify what you meant is kind of illustrating her point. But go ahead. Yeah. What's the question?
Well, the question is, how do you feel about it? Do we need a refresh? Are we good enough right now? As far as the hardware device, should there be modifications to it at this point?
I want to see software modifications. If that requires faster hardware, then yes, we need hardware. But I don't know that that's the case. I would imagine that the current hardware in the Apple TV 4K in particular is probably, well, I guess Apple may want to possibly get out in front of 8K, but Apple never gets out in front of anything. So, but maybe they want to do Apple TV 8K. Really hadn't thought about that. Apple's usually slow to support that sort of thing, right? I mean, the Apple TV was 720p forever. Like long after 1080p was like no one was buying 720p TVs, and yet the Apple TV was still a 720p device. Right?
Yeah. And I guess I'm sitting here thinking if an 8K Apple TV came out tomorrow, why would I buy it? Because where's the 8K content coming from? Is there anybody that's providing 8K content?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
Maybe over the interwebs somehow, but I haven't even looked into it because I don't really care. The hardware is probably out in front of the content on that particular site, for the rest of the content world. Not limiting ourselves to Apple's world. But I want to see changes in the software. I want to see, for one thing, again, I would really like it if my Apple TV would remember where I keep putting the audio. That seems like a no-brainer. That should be a thing. Secondly, I don't think, for instance, I'm binging on Chuck. Did you watch Chuck? Do you remember Chuck?
No.
Fun show. Very, very, very fun TV show. It's the last season. It was a five season show, and the last one, I think, season was like 2012 or 2013. So it's been off the air for a while. And I realized I hadn't seen season 3 or season 4 and 5, and so I decided to binge it. And so I've been binging it. I've been watching it. And the really fun thing is that, and I'm watching it on Netflix. Apple TV wants to show me, for what's up next, it wants to show me the last episode that I started through Apple TV, even though that's like 20 episodes ago. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Right. So like if I were to look at the Apple TV menu for what's up next, and it has very cleverly gotten all the shows that I've been watching from, be it AT&T Now, AT&T Direct, I don't know what they're calling it, or Netflix or Amazon Prime or whatever, right? It's cleverly gotten all those shows, but for some reason Apple TV doesn't know that I'm not still watching this episode from season 3. Right? That, like, I don't know if that's Netflix not reporting it correctly, or if the APIs and whatnot that Apple TV has for Netflix to tap into aren't smart enough to actually be able to handle the data. I don't know where the problem is, but Apple either needs to force the developers to do it right, or give the developers tools to make it right.
And that feels like that's more of the service itself rather than the device. I would think. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't know. AT&T is terrible. AT&T is a terrible Apple TV app. Like, I don't recommend AT&T. So it used to be DirecTV Now, which was DirecTV's cord cutting. You don't need a satellite dish. It was just all going through the internet. And AT&T bought DirecTV, and they rebranded about 6 or 9 months ago. They rebranded DirecTV Now to like AT&T Now or AT&T. I don't even know what they call it. But the app that they have for Apple TV is terrible. It is a terrible experience. It's a terrible service. I don't recommend it for anybody, and yet I have it. And but it reports the correct episode of whatever it is that I was watching. Right. So if I was watching a show that I'm sorry, there is a built-in DVR for AT&T Now. Okay. And if I have watched a new episode, it'll be that new episode or the next episode that the Apple TV menu will show me as the next episode. So AT&T seems to be able to do that right, even though they do everything else very poorly. And Netflix doesn't do it right. That doesn't seem right. Netflix usually does. I don't know. Someone needs to do something better. And if that means Apple cracking the whip over these third-party content app makers, great. And if it's Apple providing better tools, great. Do that. Here's a question for you. Do you remember Walter Isaacson reporting in his biography of Steve Jobs that Steve Jobs said that we cracked the code? We figured out how to do stuff, right?
Sure.
So the question is, have we as consumers seen what Steve Jobs was telling Walter Isaacson about? Because if we have, he's wrong. He didn't crack the code.
This Mac Voices is sponsored by Linode, your solution for when you need a virtual server in the cloud. Need a virtual cloud server like now? Linode has you covered. You can deploy a new server customized to your purpose with the features you want in seconds. Time is money, and if you have that immediate need, Linode is there. And even if you don't need your new server that quickly, Linode is there. And these aren't just any servers. These are SSD-based 40 gigabit network, high-performance processor-powered servers that are capable of web hosting, distributed applications, hosted servers, and more. Pick from a simple $5 per month Linode plan, or ramp the whole way up to a high-powered dedicated CPU. When you need to upgrade as your requirements demand, that upgrade is a click away. To make some deployments even easier, there's a host of one-click installs available, from Minecraft to WordPress. Need to locate your server in a particular location for either performance or legal reasons? No problem. Linode has servers all over the world. Perhaps most important, though, is their pricing. No surprises, no hidden costs. You pay for what you need, and you pay for what you use on an hourly basis. No data transfer fees like some of the larger cloud services. It's your data. Why would you expect to pay to access it? With Linode, you don't. These are just a few of the features that Linode brings to the table. I want you to visit linode.com/MacVoices right now and see what all the fuss is about. Again, linode.com/MacVoices takes $20 off your first server package. You've been thinking about that virtual server of your own for a long time. Make it happen today with Linode. Thanks to Linode for their support of Mac Voices. Okay, so I'm not going to be a Steve Jobs apologist, but I feel like the whole TV thing has evolved. It has evolved, changed so much in the last, well, since right before Steve passed away. It just, that was very much a time of transition, and I would agree with you. I don't know what the code is. I don't know how you would crack it at this point.
Here's what I think.
Okay.
I think that when Steve told Walter that we cracked the code, that it was pretty loose, and that the code was content makers make the apps, and we gather all that information and give you a singular way to access the shows on those particular apps. And the idea may well have that idea may well have been cracking the code, but in implementation, I don't think Apple has nailed it. I do not think Apple TV is perfect. I think it's far from perfect.
Well, I don't think anything. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, at one point, TiVo cracked the code. Because
at one point, yeah, for the code that at that time, right?
Right, exactly,
right.
exactly. I mean, it was a superior product, and you didn't have to watch gibberish that you didn't want to. It not only could you find what you wanted to watch, but it learned and would tell you that, hey, I think you'll like this, and a high percentage of the time it was very, very right. And now I don't think it's beyond the possibility of doing that, absent the issue of licensing, and And I think Apple TV is still, if I remember correctly, at one point, they were, and maybe they still do it. I don't know. I haven't used Apple TV in that way for a while. To say, okay, I want to watch 2001, and and it would tell me where I could find it, whether it was on Apple TV, or whether I needed to purchase the movie, or whether I could rent it from Netflix or Amazon Prime, and that's what we really need right now, is a service like that, and that ties into a box that will then let me do it. But on the other hand, man, there's so many subscriptions and all to manage that it's not impossible, but it's a challenge. It's a challenge to make it a seamless experience.
It is a challenge, and I don't envy Apple's task there, especially with to your point. I mean, you talked about the market being and the industry being in transition from shortly before Steve Jobs, and I think that acceleration, or that transition has accelerated in the last 5 years. And I don't envy Apple's task, and I don't have any plans of changing my Apple TV out for some other set-top device to be the controlling source for me to watch my television content. But I would like to see it improve, and I'd like to see it be easier. And I'd really like to see if Apple's going to give us the Apple TV, again, which one do you call it? But the app that is supposed to be our one source for going to all of the content. I'd like to see that work better.
How could I disagree with that? But I'm not sure that there's going to be the cooperation between the service providers and the content providers with something like Apple, because they all want to hide, and drive you to their own little walled garden.
It's true. That is true, and which I think was part of the point of Apple TV Plus. Was for Apple to garner enough eyeballs that it could control and command the respect needed for the rest of the industry. And Apple TV Plus has definitely not hit that level yet. But hopefully Apple is going to continue to progress with that too.
Yeah, it felt like it stalled, and there are going to be a lot of people that blame a lot of things on COVID-19, but I think that COVID-19 has contributed to that. That along with a lot of other TV production, that it just pulled the rug right out from under everybody, and so now everybody's going to have to retrench a little bit and figure out how to adjust.
At the same time, almost nothing that would have been halted by COVID-19 is anything that we really would have seen. I mean, look at all the network TV shows. We're still seeing the rest of the season play out because most of the seasons were already filmed. They needed to be edited, and they needed to be, they needed to have, all the various post-production stuff done to them. But I just watched the season ender for The Rookie, Nathan Fillion show. Have you watched that?
No.
Do you like Nathan Fillion?
Sorry, don't even know Nathan.
You were dead to me.
I'm sorry.
He was Mal on Firefly. He was the captain.
Oh yeah, sure, yes.
Yeah, and he was the leaving Castle too. If you ever watched Castle, Castle was a great show. Anyway, so his new TV show is The Rookie. I just watched the season ender last Sunday, right? And they clearly weren't doing main filming during COVID-19. So my point is that the delays that COVID-19 are going to be causing in the content industry we haven't felt those delays yet as consumers. We're going to be feeling it like later this year, even if everything gets back to normal. Later this year and early next year is we'll be feeling those repercussions.
I have to say, just earlier today, I watched the finale for the season finale for the Blacklist. I don't know. Are you a Blacklist watcher?
No. Am I
okay. No. But I thought it was fascinating, and I didn't know this, and so I'm watching along, and all of a sudden, they break the fourth wall completely, and the actors are now talking as actors, and they're saying, and that's what's about to happen, and that's when we had to stop shooting. And so, but there are other pieces farther down that we shot. So, through the magic of, the production at home and what we can do now, we're going to fill in the holes. And they filled in the holes with the actors doing the voiceover and animated characters. And I mean, like, decent animation.
That's great.
It was. And then the rest of the episode goes back and forth and back and forth. And I thought, somebody needs to win an award for this, because these are people that really wanted to put out a show, and they found a way to do it and wrap up the season, instead of just saying, oh yeah, we're not going to finish the season. So, hats off to NBC and to the Blacklist producers for finding a way to do it. It was very, very
really
good.
Cool.
Yeah. I would. You won't understand the plot line if you haven't been watching it, but just go and watch it to see that individually and how they do it. It's very, very cool. Bryan, before we wrap up, any thoughts right now on Apple Card?
I use my Apple Card. If I can't find. So discounted iTunes cards have become precious, right? There just aren't that many discounted iTunes cards anymore. And so, like, one of my go-to sources when I couldn't find a 10 or 15% off card would be to go to raise.com, RAISE.com. And they resell digital gift cards for, like, all the companies. And they're usually discounted, and usually it would be somewhere between 4 and 7%. And 4 and 7% is better than 0%, right? So my point is, and I'm always like, I always want to make sure I have discounted iTunes cards on my account, loaded up on my account, so that I feel like I'm getting a bargain, especially for in-app purchases, right? So. Cut to COVID-19, and the raise discounts went from 5 to 7% routinely for iTunes cards to 0% for many weeks. It was 0%, and now there are cards back available for 2% off. But the Apple Card is 3% off. So if I can't find a discounted iTunes card, I will happily charge stuff. For in-app purchases, or iBooks, or movie rentals, or movie purchases and things like that, I will happily get 3% off through the Apple Card. So I use it all the time. And the iMac I mentioned, I originally channeled it through my Apple Card for that 3%.
I feel like it's one of those things that kind of falls off the radar most of the time, comes back on when a new bank starts to accept it or work with it. But I feel like, well, before COVID-19, because now I'm staying home, but I was starting to see more Apple Card stickers, more places, and and not only for the contactless pay, but also just for the card itself. If you were inclined to carry the card.
You don't mean Apple Pay, you mean Apple Card stickers.
Oh, yes, Apple Card stickers. Pardon me. Well, no, Apple Pay stickers. Apple Pay stickers.
Apple Pay stickers.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I tend to think of the two as synonymous, and you're right, they're not technically. But yeah, I feel like more people are starting to understand it. And then this is one place that I think it's helped with COVID-19. Nobody wants to touch anything. So if I can wave my watch or my phone and not have to touch a keypad, great.
Yeah. I'm seeing more Apple Pay opportunities, not enough, but I'm seeing more on online retailers too.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely an increase there. It seems like Apple is. I feel like there are things that Apple introduces and then just like, they sort of forget about. And it seems like that Apple TV is not so far one of those things. Apple TV Plus, at least, is not one of those things, and that they're still working at it and that they are working hard at it. And I think that Apple Pay is another one of those things that Apple is working pretty hard at.
Yeah, I agree, and it makes perfect sense because it represents a steady stream of revenue. Yeah. So, the more they get out there and find ways to get it used, the more they make the money as opposed to a different credit card company or whatever. So
absolutely, it keeps us in the ecosystem.
Yeah.
The easier it is to use, and the reporting that you get. I like the reporting that I get back on my Apple Card. I can see where I'm spending my money. I mean, there are banks that certainly have similar levels of information, but Apple makes it look so pretty and it's so easy to use, and it's just right there on my phone. And I think that Apple's done a good job with Apple Card, and I think that Apple's done a good job with Apple Pay, and I certainly want to see both of those continue to grow. And I own a tiny stake in Apple.
Yeah, well, I do too. We both should make that clear. That that doesn't affect much of anything, but because we
never
would both
affected my opinion.
Yeah, we'd still be doing this anyway. So
yeah,
Bryan, this has been fun. We gotta do it more often. We always say that. And
we always say that.
Schedules never, but we do. But next time, maybe you can wear your hat and then maybe come back and show us some whatever cowboy boots you may or may not have ordered.
Can I just wear my hat and my boots and nothing else?
Well, that might get us a whole different audience.
Whitey tighties, hat and boots. Come on, man! I'll have to buy some whitey tighties, or tighty whities. What are they? It's tighty whities, isn't it?
You're kind of leaving me speechless because
I know.
The images are just rampant.
Oh, yeah, and they're not good either. And I would like to say to all your audience, too, you're also welcome. Well, just assuming you don't cut all this out.
Oh, no, baby. No, it's staying right here.
All right, good.
So tell everybody when you're not here discussing your various states of dress or undress, where they can find you. Oh, God.
That's all I do, man. That's all I do. Oh. All right. I am the editor-in-chief of the Mac Observer at macobserver.com. You can find my neglected blog at geektales.com, and my tech Twitter account is TM O'Brien. It's Brian with a Y.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Bryan. Good to see you.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
It's been fun.
Me. The royal we.
Oh,
us.
I thought you meant you and your hat, or just.
Well, that'll work too.
Okay. All right.
It's pure beauty.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is MacVoices. We're going to get out of here before we get the explicit content tag. Until the next time, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.